Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us today and welcome. I'm Christine. I'm a success consultant here at Boomtown. Today's topic is planning for the future, creating your 2018 business plan with Verl Workman. I am happy to introduce Verl Workman to you all. Verl has been one of the most recognized and respected names in professional sales training for nearly 30 years. In that time, he's delivered hundreds of powerful seminars, keynote addresses, and other motivational messages to thousands of real estate and sales professionals worldwide. Like all great teachers and coaches, Verl brings a contagious enthusiasm to every seminar, session, and event. His philosophy regarding professional training has always been, if it's not fun, I'm not going, and believes you deserve programs that live up to those expectations. His winning attitude and undying passion infuse every encounter with a sense of discovery that empowers him to inspire his clients and truly change lives. So without further ado, I'll pass it over to you, Verl.
Thank you so much, and welcome to today's call, everybody. It's Big V, and I'm fired up. Are you guys ready to go? Who wants to blow it up in 2018? You know, 2017 was a great year for a lot of people. We had a little bit of a lack of inventory. Our Boomtown clients blew it up with great leads and great lead sources. And now we have the opportunity to really think about what we want to make happen in 2018. 2018 is going to be a phenomenal year. You know, I want to give you a concept. Let me share with you a concept. And maybe you can write this down. I wish I had a whiteboard and I could draw it for you. If you write this down, it would look like this. Draw like a pyramid, and on the bottom of the pyramid, I want you to write experiences. And in the second rung of the ladder or pyramid, I want you to write the word beliefs. The third one, I want you to write actions, and in the top, I want you to write results. I've been doing a lot of study on greatness, and here's what I'm discovering. I've discovered that our life experience up to this point has formed belief systems. And these belief systems are real to us. It just is who we are based on the experiences we've had. And the activities or the actions that we do are driven by the beliefs that we have. And those actions are what get us the results. So experiences form beliefs. Beliefs drive actions, and actions get results. So I want you to think about this concept. A child is still, you tell your kids, they don't touch the stove, it's hot. And they think that you're telling them the truth, but as soon as you walk away or look away, what do? They touch the stove. And they have an experience that forms a belief that now says two things. When Dad says not to do something, he's telling me the truth, I'm going to get hurt, so I'm not going to do it. And the second belief is, hey, I experienced the heat of the stove, I'm not going to touch it again, and so my actions are now going to be altered, and I'm not going to touch hot things. I'm also going to believe what my dad says, and as a result, he gets different results because of the actions that are taken. I believe that most of us in real estate have beliefs that are formulated by experiences that can be altered. And by altering our belief and changing the experience, we have the ability to get a much higher result. Let me give you an example. I grew up in a I'll call it a poor family. My dad was disabled when I was 11. My mom had 7 kids. We grew up on church welfare. It was the neighbors that took care of us if I wanted to play softball. I remember my first job, and I thought if I could just make $50,000, that was more than my dad ever made. Because of my life experiences up to that point, I believed that a $50,000 income was a good income. And so my actions were consistent with someone who would make 50 grand. And it was really interesting making $50,000 and believing that that was what my value was. But that belief was formed on my life experiences up to that point. And so unless I change my experiences, unless I create new experiences that change my beliefs, my behavior would have always continued to be the same. In your business plan, as you look at the year 2018, what I'd like to do today is I'd like to expand in your mind and help you understand that there are greater things possible. And by doing so, create an experience that will form a belief that will allow you to change your behavior and get a lot more out of your year. How does that sound to everybody? Does that sound good? So, you know, I'm a man of faith, so I believe in God. And I teach my children they should believe in God. We go to church. I teach Sunday school classes. My boys are involved in scouts, and the kids go on youth programs. My older kids go on missions when they're 19 years old. Well, all of these life experiences are designed to help them gain a belief. And you hope that you train your children to believe like you believe, to have the same values. But so when they're young and they're kids, they lean on your beliefs until they form their own as adults. And our job as parents is to guide them the right way, give them an expanded view of what's possible, allow them to borrow our beliefs until they form their own. So what I'm going to ask you all to do today is I'm going to ask you to lean on or borrow my beliefs in what's possible until you create the experiences that solidify your own belief in what is possible so that we can change the activities or things you focus on and get a different result. When I was introduced, Christine talked about, you know, what I do, and our company coaches some of the top teams in the country and in the world. One of my biggest clients this year will do a little over 200 million in sales. In order to go from 100 million in sales to 200 million in sales, we had to change the way the client looked at the world, and he had to believe that it was possible. And then we had to approach business differently. So whether you're making $100,000 a year or $2 or $3 million a year, it doesn't matter. There's always another level, and we cap ourselves based on our beliefs as a result of the experiences we've had up to this point in our life. I'll give you one more example, and then I'll jump into the business plans. Another example is, let's just use Boomtown as an example. If I can use Boomtown, is it okay if I use Boomtown as an example?
Of course.
Okay, good. So a lot of people will tell me that Boomtown leads, you know, I can buy leads at any level I want in my business. I can turn on 100 leads a month, and I can turn on 500 leads a month, because once I figure out the formula of if I spend X dollars, I get X leads. If I follow up a certain way, I get an X result. And I know that the result gives me at least a 6 times return on my investment. And we have the data and numbers to prove that this is true. Generating leads in real estate is no longer a big problem. Lead generation, we can generate leads at any level. And I'm going to tell you, whether you're an individual agent or a small team or a big broker, Boomtown has a solution that allows us to generate leads at any level. But our belief system says that all these internet leads are crap, because based on our experiences up to this point, that has been true. But what we have to do is we have to look in the businesses of those people that are converting 3, 4, 5, even 7 or 8% of the leads that come in, and ask the question, instead of why these leads are so bad, what do I need to do differently so I get the same level of conversion? When you move accountability and responsibility away from the lead provider and you put it back on yourself and say, what can I do differently? Your whole life changes. When you start looking internally for accountability instead of having other people hold you accountable, that's when magic happens. And so always ask the question, instead of saying, why are these leads so bad? Ask the question, what can I do differently to get the same result that the top performers are getting with the same leads in the same platform? When I've got the same company providing leads for all these different teams that we coach, and we have different levels of conversions, it's not the lead source. It's the internal engagement of the individuals on the team that are either getting a better result or not as good a result. And then the attitudes of those team members are based on the experiences they've had up to that point. So it's our job as business owners, it's our job as realtors to create new experiences, to help our people form new beliefs that will control new actions so that they can get a different result. This is like a mind-blowing concept. I've been working on this. I've read books on it. One of my favorite books is a book called The Oz Principle by a guy named Connors. We did our coach training a couple weeks ago, and I taught this principle, and our coaches left there with a whole understanding of how important it is to create new experiences for the people they coach so it changes their belief in what's possible. And so I'm going to ask you all to use the notes section where you can type in questions about this webinar today. As I get in here, I'm going to go really fast, into the elements that we look at when we build seven-figure business plans. And I'm going to show you how the elite think. I'm going to show you the things that we track. I'm going to show you what we do. And I'm going to give you an opportunity. I'm going to give you some downloads and things that you can have access to that will give you the ability to follow the program that I share with you. I encourage a high level of interaction on this call. There's no selling on this call. It's not about Boomtown. It's not about selling coaching. What I've learned is if we give away great information, that the people who are interested will raise their hand, and that's who we'll work with. And so if you have questions or interaction, or you want to have more information about something, use the question section, and I will bring those up, and I'll ask, and I'll do my best to answer those questions. So several questions right now. And what is the name of the book? It's the Oz Principle, like the Wizard of Oz, O-Z. The Wizard of Oz teaches people how to look internally for accountability instead of out externally. And it uses the characters from the Wizard of Oz, the Scarecrow, the Tin Man, Dorothy, Toto, and the Lion. And, you know, the whole thing is about their journey to try and get a heart, a brain, courage, and back to Kansas. And at the end, they meet Oz, and Oz tells them they already had all the tools they needed to be successful. And so they already had a great brain, a great heart, and courage, and the ability to get back. They just didn't realize it. And that's really the truth that I want to share with everybody today, is that you have all of the gifts. You're great people with great personalities. You care about the clients that you serve. You have all of the tools, systems, and technology in the world. You just need somebody to help you change your belief in what's possible, and then just change your behavior. And sometimes we just have to change the actions or the things that we focus on so we get a different result, and that creates the new belief. All right, Christine, does that sound too philosophical this morning, this afternoon, or does that make sense?
Oh, not at all. Keep going.
Okay. All right. So in my core values, when we started this company, I sat with my branding expert, a brilliant guy out of Minneapolis named Robert Paul. And Robert Paul said, what is the most important thing to you? What is it that you want to do for people? And he developed I'd call it our brand statement. And our brand statement is helping people understand what their real why is. What is it that gets you up in the morning? What is the core motivating value? What is your purpose? Because if you don't know why, and you don't have a real why that drives you, then what ends up happening is you don't work to be able to fulfill that why. A real why is different than money. So, Christine, if you said to me, I want to make $1 million, I'd say, why? And you say, I just believe I can. And I'd say, why? And you say, I see people not as smart as me that are making that much, and I believe that I can do it. And I'd say, why? What are you going to do with $1 million? And you'd say, what do you mean? And I'd say, it's not about the money. I've seen a lot of people that have a lot of money that are miserable. So what is it about having $1 million of income in a year that would change your life? And how would it change the people around you? And what would you do differently? What kind of an impact would you be able to make in other people's lives? And I want to know what that real why is, because when I understand the real why, or that core motivating value, or that purpose, then I can give you the direction to be able to help you do the hard things and start to create experiences that will build beliefs that will get you the result that you want. But if I don't have your real why, or if you tell me your real why is money, I'm not a good fit. It has to be authentic, and nobody can give it to you. You have to develop your own. So the first thing I'm going to ask all of you to do is I'm going to ask you to just type in your income goal for 2018. So I want you to go into the questions area where you can type in a question, and I just want you to type in your income goal. And I don't care what it is, just type it in. I'm looking. I see 75,000. 10 million plus, 250,000. I'm talking about gross closed income, GCI. I see 150, 100, 200, 1.5 million, 100,000, 250. Love it. Okay. 200,000, 300,000, a million. Okay, love the numbers. My biggest number here so far is 8 million. Okay, now you've typed in your number. Now I'm going to ask you to pause for a second and tell me why that number is important to you. Because when you hit that number, I want to know what that does for you. What is your personal real why? I'll give you a couple of mine when you're done. I had a lady tell me one time from Phoenix, Arizona, whose husband was an Olympic diver. He was on the Olympic diving team when Greg Louganis hit his head on the diving board. And I sat down with her, and she says, I need to make X number of dollars. And I said, why? And she says, because I don't want my husband to have to teach diving in 118-degree weather at the outside pool in Arizona. I want him to be able to not have to work so hard to provide for our family. That, to me, is a real why. I love him so much that I want him to be able to come inside. You can say financial security, but I'm going to call bullcrap on that. Funding my kids' college, I like that one. To be financially solid, what does that mean? Financially solid means that I can retire and live a certain kind of lifestyle. Peace of mind, Victoria, I want you to go a little deeper than that, than peace of mind. Peace of mind in what area? What causes you a lack of peace of mind right now? Being able to pay off all your debts, Rita, I love that you have that in there. Affords me and my family to live comfortable. I want to create life experiences for my children that form beliefs that the world is a big place and there's a lot of people out there that need help. And I want to be able to create an environment where we can help a lot of people. I'm going to stop making money when there's nobody left in the world to give it to. Think about that as a core value. Think about that as a real why. My big producer in California, Anthony, says he gives 10% off the top to every single, to one of 5 local charities, 10%. And his goal is to give away $1 million. And he's, more than halfway there. And I coach him because I want him to have that real why. I love the interaction on this call. This is awesome. I love helping others. I love getting out of debt. Okay, now I want all of you to go back to your numbers, and I want you to double them. I don't care what your number is on your own piece of paper. I want you to double it. If you said you want to make $75,000, I know you're not even look at $75,000. What do you? I mean, is that a month or are you talking about a year? I want you to double it. The only reason you have $75,000 down is because you have a limiting belief that that's your value. And I want to tell you that I believe your value is much greater than that. That there is no limit to what you can accomplish. And I'm also going to tell you that when you're making $600,000, $700,000, $800,000 a year, you will be working less in your business than you are at $150,000. Because you're going to learn the power of leverage. And that's the key to having financial success in your life and in your business, is you have to learn the power of leverage. Leverage matters. Okay, I want you to have a real why. I want you to take your goal from your best year, and I want you to double it. The next triangle in my mission statement is productivity. And that is, how will you increase, or how will you measure your productivity? And it's not by making more, but it's by being more productive. And so purpose, living a life with purpose, living a life of productivity, feeling like when you get done each day, you did something of value. You traded your time for only something that has high value. Let me give you another little nugget. The only difference between an agent making $1 million and an agent making $150,000 is not the quality of the individual. The difference is the activities that they focus on during the day. Think about that. It's not that they're better people. It's not that they care more about their clients. It's not that they're spending more on leads. It's that when they get up every day, they focus on a different set of activities. And so they understand that their time has massive value. And they're only going to trade an hour for something that gives them a great return on that time investment. I look at my time like this. If I'm going to spend the day away from my wife, who I love, and my children, and there's 6 of them, then the return on that time has to be greater than the sacrifice that I'm making to be away from them to work. And so by lounging in the office, by kicking back, by wondering who am I going to lunch with, by doing a bunch of fake work, I'm letting my family down by trading my time for something that has lower value than spending it with them. And so if you're going to work, let's make a decision as people on this call today that we're only going to trade our time for something of real value, and we're going to eliminate fake work from our life in 2018, so that every day is a productive day and a profitable day. And when we go home and we high-five our kids and we hug our spouses because we know that we accomplished something today that moved us closer to our goals. And the last piece of my triangle in our triangle logo is prosperity. It's purpose, productivity, and prosperity. And that's when you start to understand that it's not how much you make in gross closed income, but it's how much you keep. And then how do you build a business that continues to pay you after you walk away and stop working in real estate? This concept is foreign to almost every real estate agent. I was looking at the NAR numbers of how much the average agent makes, and it's embarrassing. Like, I don't even want to tell people I'm in real estate because the consumer deals with the average agent, and the average agent lives in poverty. They don't make any money. They make less than $20,000 a year. It's an embarrassment. And so there's no prosperity that's happening with the majority of realtors. I'm going to tell you that Boomtown clients and Workman Success clients are in a whole different world. And we have to do a better job of letting the world know there's a difference between average and exceptional. And when they have an opportunity to work with exceptional, they get better, they get a higher experience, they get better customer service, they have amazing level of honesty and ethics in the transactions, and we do what it takes to get stuff done. And we don't walk around with commission breath because we're not hanging on every transaction like if it's the only thing we're going to do. The reality is that when you have so much business that if a deal falls out, it's not devastating to you. You treat people better because you make decisions differently because it's not about how or whether or not you need that closing. But when you need every closing, sometimes we do things that we wouldn't do if we had plenty of money. And I want to get you to that place where you think differently. All right. The first concept of leverage is you have to leverage your time. You have to leverage human resources, and you have to leverage technology. Here's what I've learned about leads and lead generation. If you have money, invest it in having somebody else generate the leads. You should spend your time talking to people, converting the leads, and going on appointments. If you don't have money, then you have to prospect. But you have to decide if you want to be the manager of one or a leader of many. I believe that the evolution of the real estate team is the future of real estate because teams understand the value of leverage. As a team leader, I have the ability to have 4 or 5 buyers agents that work with buyers. I have listing partners that go on listings, and I have an unbelievable administrative staff that provides amazing client support. And that gives me to focus on the 2 things that are most important to give me the highest return on my time. And those 2 things are business development and people development. So what makes a great leader? I'm going to skip through some of my leader slides and get right into my business plan. How do we create leverage to increase our sales and our productivity? Are you ready? You got to have a plan. And you have to work that plan. You have to build a legitimate business plan. I'm going to take you through and share with you the elements of a good plan. In Stephen Covey's book, 7 Habits for Highly Effective People, he said that most business failures begin in the first creation with problems such as undercapitalization, a misunderstanding of the market, and a lack of a plan. I'm a big believer on eliminating our excuses for failure. And if we're going to eliminate our excuses for failure, we have to understand we have to have a plan. I look at a plan like building a house. I mean, could you imagine building a home and not having a business plan? Like, seriously? To what level would you be able to build the house that you want if you didn't build a blueprint? So you got to do a blueprint. We have to have a great first creation. And so beginning with the building plan, beginning with the business plan, one of the first things that we use is we use what's called an income estimator. We take an income estimator and we write down what our annual goal is. We write down what our commission is, generally on one side or the other, what our commission split is. It doesn't matter if you're a 100% shop or you do 82. It doesn't matter. Whatever it is, we can find success. We do average sales price on the buyers, average sales price on the listers, and then we hit calculate, and it tells us how many listings we need, how many buyers we need in order to be able to hit our goal. And then it breaks it down into the number of transactions. I was on a call with one of our clients earlier today, and she had a great business, and her business did about $400,000. And I said, that's great, but we got to double it. We got to go to $800,000. And she said, go to $800,000. That blows my mind. And I said, what's your average sales price? She says it was $400,000. I said, great. How many listings do you need to hit $800,000 in income? It's only 60 listings. That's barely one and a half. It's not even 1.5 a week. It's only 60 listings. And if all she did is get 60 listings in 2018, she would hit $800,000 in gross closed income based on her average sales price. So figure out your numbers of what it's going to take to hit your income goal and use this calculator to be able to do that. Okay. Yes, I will give you the calculator. So Chet, you need to make sure that they have a link to this in the downloads as part of the downloads that I give when I give them a landing page at the end of the webinar, okay? All right. The next thing is you've got to have your plan in writing. So we have a business plan workbook that we take all of our clients through. We have a whole training program in our learning center that takes you through business planning and setting your business up correctly and all of that. But I'm just going to give it to you. So I'm going to give you a landing page where you can go in and you can send a text and an email to a number, and then you tell me who you are, and I'll give you some free stuff, including my business plan workbook and some other great tools. So I'm going to take you through some of the elements of the business plan workbook. And the reason I'm giving it to you is because I want you to get into a place where by following the system that I teach, it creates a belief that the things that I teach have value. And if they have value, then you're going to raise your hand and say, if this is good, there may be more. Is that fair? The next thing we want to do is we want you to do what's called a SWOT analysis. Now, I'm going to take you through a SWOT analysis, and I'm going to help you understand what that means. SWOT stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. If you were to take this quadrant, you see this little 4 squares right here, and you see it's blocked into 4 squares. Above the S, write the word internal, and above the O, write the word external. And so the question I have for you is, what would you say are your greatest strengths? Attention to detail, technology. I have some money to invest. I have a great ability to build great relationships with people. I have great relationships with builders. So you take your S and you build great strengths. So write down all your strengths. And I want you to take a minute, write them down, as many as you can. And then I want you to be honest with yourself, and I want you to write down weaknesses. Under the W, what are your weaknesses? Weaknesses are things like attention to detail, technology, can't get out of my own way. I suffer from nobody can do it as good as me syndrome, so I don't have the ability to delegate. I don't have any money. I'm afraid of prospecting. The phone weighs 10,000 pounds and I can't pick it up to make that very first call. If you can't come up with any weaknesses, ask the question, what would my spouse or my ex-spouse say are my weaknesses? That's always kind of a fun one. Bad attitude, not self-motivated, I have all the money in the world so I don't need to work. Those can all be weaknesses. So you write down your weaknesses. The next thing I would have you do, now by the way, this is hard, isn't it? Like when you think about it and you really write down your strengths and you really write down your weaknesses, it's hard because you have to be real. You're not fooling anybody to not be honest with your strengths, and you're not fooling anybody to not be honest with your weaknesses. Then I want you to go to the O. The O in the top right-hand corner are the opportunities that you see that you're currently not taking advantage of. And this should be a big list. Just because you write it down as an opportunity doesn't mean you're going to do it. I just want you to write them all down. So let's throw some out. We could do new construction. You could do door knocking. We could work our sphere of influence. We could work our top 50. For my Brian Buffiniites, we could do more pop buys. We could do more open houses. We could work with probate attorneys and divorce attorneys and all of those things. So think of all of the opportunities that are out there that you're not taking advantage of and write them down. The last thing on the SWOT analysis is write the threats. Threats are things you cannot control, but you need to be aware of. You know, what goes on with tax reform? Are we going to lose the home owner's exemption? What's going on with interest rates? A pending war in North Korea. I mean, there's things. How about a threat like that we've had this year in Florida and in Texas and in Louisiana with hurricanes, and Marcos Island and all these places have been devastated by natural disasters, the fires in California. I've got clients in every one of those areas. These are threats that they have no control over, but they have to figure out how to find success in the midst of those disasters. So you write down the threats. Now, let me tell you how we deal with it. The first thing I want you to look at is I want you to look at your strengths and say, which opportunities am I going to like working the most because of the strengths that I currently have? And you only get to pick 4. With your weaknesses, I want you to ask the question, is this something I can delegate? Because you already suck at it. Why do you want to focus on it? Outsource it. Sorry, Christine, can I say that? When you look at your weaknesses, look, if you're not good at making calls, outsource it. Do we have people that will make calls for us, Christine?
No.
We don't have people to make calls. What about ISAs?
Oh, yes, we do. Sorry.
We have lots of people to make calls for us. If you're not good at it, let somebody else be good at it. If you're not good at your accounting, hire a bookkeeper. If you're not good at working with buyers, get a buyer's agent. If you don't have any money, then focus on activities that don't cost money to get started till you do have the money. You look at your weaknesses and you ask if you can outsource it. I outsource everything. I believe that you can outsource everything except your spouse. You can't outsource that. The greatest gift, Christine, I gave my wife a couple years ago for Christmas was a food nanny. A food nanny, someone who comes into our house and cooks 4 days a week. It cost me 150 days a week, and my wife has never been happier. She not only hates cooking, she hates shopping for the food. But by understanding that it makes her life better to have somebody else do the things that she doesn't like, it makes my life better because she's happier. And because I'm more productive, because I have a happier home life, we have the money to be able to afford somebody else mowing our lawn and somebody else cooking for my kids. And instead of me coming home after a long day of work preparing all the food and cooking, I get to sit down and have a great meal with my family. And so our time together has a higher level of value because it's not being distracted by me doing other things in the kitchen. I know that sounds weird, but if it's a weakness and it's something that causes you stress, delegate it. Delegate it. Cindy says, I love that you say to delegate your weakness instead of saying suck it up and do it. I find that when it's a weakness, it never really gets done. I love that you recognize that, Cindy. That's a belief system that's a limiting belief that I can't delegate. It's a limiting belief based on your current experiences up until now, and we have to change your experience. This could be the most important webinar you've ever attended because you're having an experience with someone who has changed their belief system on what is possible in life from a low 2-figure income to a high 7-figure income just by changing the belief of what's possible. I love what I do. And I love my family, and we play really hard because we understand that we focus on our strengths to take advantage of opportunities that exist in our market. That is a beautiful, beautiful thing. One client just texted me and said, my wife was on the call. She says, we're getting a food nanny. I love that. All right. So the next thing I want you to do in your business plan, and this will be in the next page in your business plan you get in your download, is I want you to look at your personal objectives. I believe that you have to have balance in 5 areas. Family, faith, friends, fun, and fitness all have a massive impact on your finances. And if you're focused on finances, but you do it at the expense of your family, then I believe as a coach I failed you. Let me say that again. If you make $1 million, but you do it at the expense of your family, I believe as a coach, I have failed you. I do not believe, and this comes from great leaders, that any other success can compensate for failure in the home. It makes my heart hurt when an agent comes to me and says to me, Verl, let me tell you about my life. I'm like every other realtor, I'm divorced. That opening statement is based on experiences up to that point in this person's life. And those experiences have formed a belief that you can't have a happy marriage and a happy life if you're going to be a successful realtor. And that is a limiting false belief that does not need to exist. So let's change that. Whenever you say yes to something, you give up, you say no to something else. I came up with this really interesting. I wish I had my juggle balls and we were on video. I want you to look at all your roles. You're a real estate agent, you're a mother, you're a wife, you're the PTA president, you're a buyer's agent, you're a listing partner, you're an administrative assistant, you're a broker owner, you're a lead converter. You have all of these roles. And if I were to put them all as juggle balls on the table and ask you to pick up 3 of them, and I'd say pick up your 3 most important balls. I did this example on video recently at the convention in Dallas. And the agent picked up father, husband, and realtor. And I said, let me see you juggle them. And he had skills. He took all 3 of those balls and he started juggling them. And then I looked at the other 8 balls and I said, do you have an assistant? He said, no. And I said, then you are one. So I'm going to throw a 4th ball in the mix. And he goes, well, I can't juggle 4. And I said, okay, so you have to decide which one you're going to put down if you're going to be an assistant. And he held tight to father and husband. And he put down realtor. I said, oh, so you're going to let your clients down so that you can be a good admin? He goes, well, no. And I said, when you say yes to one thing, you say no to something else. And you have to realize you either have to have great systems or you have to have great people to create leverage in your life, because when you say yes to something, it doesn't matter what it is, you're saying no to something else. And so you have to decide if you're going to do $15 an hour activities or if you're going to hire someone to help you. So what are your personal objectives? I want you to write down what you want your life to look like at the 2018. At the end of 2018, where do you want to be family? Where do you want to be with your faith? Where do you want to be for fun? What are you going to do with your friends? And what are you going to do physically to stay in shape and feel better? Okay, so we first do personal objectives. The second thing I want you to do is I want you to do what I call a strategic plan. Any of my coaching clients that are on this call, and several of them are here, this probably sounds like a coaching call we just had, because right now we're doing all of our business plans for 2018, and we're doing our strategic plans. And a strategic plan says, where do you want to be 5 years from now? Give me a snapshot of your life and your business in 5 years. What does it look like? So what does your business look like 5 years from now? And I want you to intentionally create the greatest amount of detail as possible. It might say something like this. I have my student loans paid off. I bought my first 2 investment properties. My kids' colleges are funded. I've got, $50,000 in my retirement, and I'm putting in $50,000 a year for the next 5 years. I have, I'm involved in my kids, and I'm coaching dance, or I'm working with them in their cheerleading squads, or I'm doing soccer. I'm taking 3 weeks off a month, 1 week just with my wife, and 2 weeks with the whole family. I'm a better grandparent. All of those things. I want you to intentionally draw out your 5-year plan and tell me what it looks like. And then I want you to see it, and I want you to believe that it's possible. Whatever you think it is, double it. I want you to go beyond what you believe is possible. And I want you to do what I call failing up. If you set your goal next year for $500,000 gross closed income, let's say you made $100,000 this year, you wanted to double it for next year, so you make $200,000. I'm telling you to double it again to $400,000. So your goal is $400,000. What if you fail and only hit $300,000? I call that failing up. If you're always hitting your goals, then you're not setting them high enough. I want you to set your goals just beyond your grasp, as Ogmandino teaches. Okay, so then I want you to go, after you've done your 5-year plan, and I want you to say, midterm plan, where do I want to be a year from now? So in a year, what does that business and life look like? In order for me to be on track to hit my 5-year plan, where do I have to be a year from now? And then the last one is 6 months. So in 6 months, hey, by June, what has to be happening in my business? I have to have a full-time assistant. I've got to have my Boomtown platform set up. I want to double my lead count. I want to have lenders paying for 50% of it. I want to be compliant with all of the rules and regulations, and I want to have 4 buyers agents working leads and a full-time ISA. What does that look like? I want you to tell me 6 months from now what has to be going on in your business in order for you to be able to hit it. Sorry, I'm getting fired up. Okay, so is this clear to everybody? As I'm taking you through the business plan and clearly laying out where you want to be 5 years, 1 year, and 6 months from now, what I hope that you get is clarity. Because when you have clarity, it changes what you focus on. But when you don't have clarity, you wander around in mediocrity. I call it wandering around in mediocrity. And then we do things that make us feel busy, but doesn't move us any closer to our goals. Not having a business plan is like saying to Siri, hey Siri, take me somewhere. How's Siri going to respond to that? Do you want food? Do you want entertainment? Do you want movies? If you have no idea where you want to go, you can have the best technology in the world. You're never going to get there. You have to be clear. Christine, that was a good analogy, that Siri one. I just made that up.
That was really good. I was saying the same thing.
I was just thinking, what's a good analogy of not knowing where to go? Saying to your GPS, I use the Waze app, and I'm on my Waze app, which is great. And I had to go to the doctor this morning. I clicked on the doctor's office, and the doctor's office came up. And then there's this really great donut shop on the way to the doctor's office called Banbury Cross Donuts. And a little ad came up and said, did you want to stop at Banbury Cross on your way to the doctor's office? When you have a great GPS, it's going to make suggestions along the way based on your preferences that will give you a better life. Now, I stopped and I bought 24 donuts, not for myself, but when I took them into the doctor's office, I got a higher level of care. Interesting, because I can't eat donuts because I'm losing weight. All right, the next thing in your thing is I want you to look at your opportunities. Now, this is where it gets a little bit different. I'm a big fan of Tom Ferry, Brian Buffini, Mike Ferry. I like Dirk Zeller. There's a lot of great real estate coaches out there. Most of them are my friends, and I consider them great leaders in the industry. And everybody has their own style and flavor, and you can have success with any of the coaches. I really mean that. And not everybody is a good fit for every coach. So you have to find someone who matches your core values, that thinks like you, that helps you create an experience to change your belief on what's possible. Does that make sense? So I have a high level of respect. Everybody does think differently. I think Brian Buffini, for example, teaches how to work referrals and how to really work your database and your network better than anybody else. He teaches a pillar of income better than anyone I've ever met. And I believe that if you follow the things that he teaches, you're going to get a great result. Where Brian and I differ, and it's not even differing, is I believe that you have to have 4 pillars of income, and that no single pillar can represent more than 25% of your income. And so if you took your, let's say that you said, okay, I'm going to make $100,000 next year, and I say, okay, where did your business come last year? Let's take a look at it. And you tracked and you showed me that 80% of your business came from referrals. I'm going to say that we need to develop 3 other pillars equal to your referral sphere of influence, and no single pillar can be more than 25%. So that means we're going to quadruple the size of your business. So when you look at your opportunities, I want you to build 4 pillars of income. But now this is where it really gets cool. When you develop your action plan for each pillar, let's say you have a pillar on for sell by owners and expireds, or you have a pillar called geographic farming, or you have a pillar called open houses or door knocking, you have a pillar called internet leads with Boomtown. I do a pillar. When you do a pillar, I want you to set an action plan that will allow you to generate 100% of your transaction goal out of each one of the 4 pillars. Think about that. If you build an action plan to get 100% of your income goal out of each of the 4 pillars, what do you think your likelihood, Christine, is of success? I love calling on her so I can see if she's listening.
I'm listening.
I know you are. I'm just messing with you. What would happen if you had 4 pillars of income and each one of them generated 100% of your income goal? What would you do to your income goal?
Increase it by 400%.
Yeah, you'd quadruple it. You'd blow away your goal. What if only 2 of them hit? You double your goal. This is how the elite think. This is how we get people to think and behave differently and get a higher level result. Then with each one of the goals in our business plans that we set in each of our pillars, we create that specific goal, we create the real core motivating value behind it, and then in advance I want you to identify and I want you to tell me in advance all the excuses you're going to give me of why you failed. Think about that. If I ask you to give me your excuses for failure in advance, and then one by one we're going to create a resolve and eliminate it. I didn't delegate. I don't have leads. I don't have any money. I don't know what the 4 pillars should be. It doesn't matter what the 4 pillars should be. Look, I'll give you a training center where you can go in and look, and I take you through lots of different ways of making money, lots of questions coming in on that. You have to develop your 4 pillars. I rattled off a whole bunch. For sale by owners, new construction, door knocking, join another team, be a buyer's agent for someone and learn the business. You could have a pillar called for sale by owners, probate attorneys, divorce attorneys. Probate attorneys and divorce attorneys are a huge business, and there's not very many people that go after that, and it's a great way. REOs, bank-owned properties, be a Fannie or a Freddie agent. Get involved in all the different ways of generating business. You can do Zillow. There's lots of ways of generating leads. You write your goal, the why, the excuses for failure, the resolve, and then the action items. Every single one of the goals, and you should have 5 business goals and 5 personal goals, should have one of these, and it's called an action plan worksheet. So you should have 10 action plan worksheets, 1 for each of your personal goals, 1 for each of your business goals, and then all of the details of what it's going to take to accomplish that specific goal. And so you just break it down to the ridiculous. What do I need to do? When is it going to be done? Am I going to do it or is somebody else going to do it? And then you get up every day and you execute around your priorities. Your income goal sheet should look like this. Hey, put an ad in the paper, interview someone, and train an admin. That is not the right way to hire. When I go to hire someone, look at this. This is what my action plan worksheet looks like. These are all of the activities that have to happen when I hire someone, and then I onboard them. It's a massive list. And then I'm going to take you to a different planet. We build what's called an agile project manager. And in the agile project manager, what happens is we take all of the things that we want to do this year and we list them. And then we put them in priority, and then we execute around those priorities. Would you like to see a real one? Let me see if I can show you a real one. You're looking at my real screen here for just a minute. So I'm going to just show you. Let me go into a real agile. So I'm going to take a client who started coaching with me several years ago. She was making about $250,000. 2016, she ended about $2.2 million. Her name is Christy Buck. She has a team office in Pearland, Texas. And when I go into Christy Buck, I'm going to open up her agile. And this is her real agile. This is how we operate in a relationship, in a coaching relationship, where we're looking at all the things that she wants to do. We have to create more business for the team, increase the listing inventory up to 30. We have to increase listing inventory. We have to do ROI on our call capture. These are all the activities she wants to do. And then we take and we put a number by each of these activities, and we put a number by it. We then sort by highest to lowest. When we're ready to actually do something, we take and put a date on it, and that idea comes off the idea backlog, and we build what's called a sprint. A sprint is where the rubber meets the road. It's when we say, okay, I'm doing a Santa Claus event for all of my past clients. What are all the activities that have to happen in order for us to accomplish that? And then we build a sprint with all the activities that need to be done, a description of the activity, who's going to do it. And so every day what Christy does is she meets with her key reports that are working on projects, and she removes impediments and keeps projects moving forward. As a result of this, it creates action plans that become duplicatable, so every single year we do the same thing. This whole agile project manager is a result of building a business plan first and then moving the business plan to Agile and executing on it. All right, am I blowing you away a little bit? I don't mean to. The next step is we can take, and this is called Workbench. So when we have clients, we've just launched a new platform that allows us to go in and we can see everything going on in the business, what the team looks like. When I click on the key business numbers, check this out. This is Nate Martinez. Nate runs a team in Phoenix, Arizona. This shows that we've done 57 listings, 38 buyers. He's got $855,000 in gross closed income. We know what came from buyers. We know what came from sellers. We know what the sales volume is, and this is just at a glance. The other thing that gets really cool here is I can click on daily success habits, and I can see if the people on the team are doing the activities that generate the points that get the results. I can see how many calls are being made, how many emails are being done, how many handwritten notes. When a buyer's agent shows 2 homes to a client, I can track it. I believe that that which gets measured gets done. And if we measure the activities that generate the result, we end up with a much higher level of predictable revenue in our business. Let me go back to the slide deck because we'll never finish. Oh, there it is. Sorry, I closed it. Is this helpful for you to see how we take the business plan, move it into an Agile project manager, and then move it into a place where we track the activities that generate the results? What I want you to see is that it's not magical or mysterious. It's just a matter of doing the activities that generate the result, and you can follow real systems if you want that to happen for you. Here's an example of the listing inventory, getting listing inventory up, and what that looks like in a sprint. All right, the difference between those who succeed and those who fail lies in the difference of their habits. Good habits open the door to success. Bad habits unlock the door to failure. So Ogmandino in his 10 Scrolls says the first law I will follow is I will form good habits and become their slave. And so we developed the Daily Success Habits Tracker, and we teach our teams to track the activities that generate results. How many calls did you make? And these are prospecting calls. How many dials? How many handwritten notes? How many houses did you show? And everybody on all of our teams, whether they're an individual agent or team, sets a goal to get 61 points a day. And then I want to know how many dials. A dial is a hash mark. If you have a conversation, it makes it X. So I know how many dials it takes to have a conversation, how many conversations it takes to have an appointment, how many appointments it needs. I need to be able to get a listing. When we break down our activities into the ridiculous things that you need to do in a day, then all you have to do is know that, hey, it takes me 200 calls to get a listing appointment. And every time you make a call and somebody says no, you just go high-five yourself because you're that much closer to getting appointments. You just have to know your numbers. So I'm going to encourage you to use your numbers. How many of your calendars look like this? You schedule anything, you pop up and you run out and you do whatever anybody wants you to do at the moment they want you to do it. If you want to build a 7-figure income, you have to control your time, not your clients. You cannot be, as Julie Timms liked to say, a Pop-Tart realtor. You have to control your time. And the only way to do that is to understand the concept of the big rocks. You know, you heard the story of the professor puts a bunch of rocks in a jar and says to the class, is the jar filled? And the class says, yeah, it's all full. And then he takes some small gravel and pours it in amongst the rocks and shakes the jar until he fills it to the top. He says, now is it full? And they go, yeah. And then he takes some sand and pours it in amongst the gravel and the rocks. And he says, is it filled now? Now they're starting to catch on to the story. And they're like, no. And then he takes a pitcher of water and pours the water in until it's full. And he says to the class, what's the moral of the story? And, some wise aleck on the front row says, I know, no matter how much you have to do in a day, there's always room to get more in. And he said, no, that is not the moral of the story. The moral is, if you don't put the big rocks in first, you'll never get them all in. And so you have to identify what your big rocks are and do those first every day. And that all happens with your business plan. So we created a time blocker in Google Drive called the Perfect Week. And in your Perfect Week, you go in and you intentionally create the days that you want. I'm going to come in, I'm going to get my office work done, I'm going to do my daily huddle with my key reports, I'm going to then prospect and role play every single day, I'm going to have time blocked for when I show houses, and when someone calls and says, I want you to show houses, you say, great, you want to do morning or afternoon? They say afternoon, I say, I have Tuesday and Thursday available. And they say, let's do Thursday. And I say, great, I have 1 o'clock and 3 o'clock, because those are the times that I've put in my calendar that I'm going to show homes. You control your life. Every once in a while, you have to make adjustments, and I've never seen anybody have a perfect week. But if I look at the perfect week and I line it up next to the daily success habits, and I focus on progress instead of perfection, what happens is you start getting a different result because you are in charge of your life. Ladies and gentlemen, all of you that are on this call today, I believe that you're sons and daughters of God, and I believe that God doesn't make mistakes. And if you're a son and daughter of God, that means that your potential is unlimited. There is no limits except the ones we place on ourselves. And it's up to us to change the experiences that we have so that we can create new beliefs on what's possible. And that will change the actions or the things that we focus on so that we can get the result that we want in our business and in our lives. That's what it means to have a business plan. A business plan isn't sitting down and just doing your numbers. A business plan is a life plan. It's really how you get. It's really how you get to have it all. Your life is either intentionally created or it's accidentally created, and it's up to you to decide what that's going to be. So where do you want to go? What does your next level look like? What is your year going to be? I need to show you a page. I'm going to give you a landing page where you can download some stuff that I want to give you for today, and then I'm going to look for questions. Let me see. I'm going to go to my message board. I'll stay on for a couple of minutes and answer questions for you. Let me give you a slide that tells you. Here's the slide right here. Okay. I've got a couple more slides for you, but I want you to go to workmansuccess.com/BoomtownNOV. If you would like to download and get my business plan workbook, my perfect week scheduler, if you would like to talk to one of my business consultants and have a coaching consult to see what it looks like to coach with us, sign up for a free coaching consult, and you always have access to our free disc assessments. We are doing our first ever team summit in Sarasota, Florida in January. And if you would like to spend a couple of days with some of the best teams in the country and really understand how we do this, go to WSSLeverage18.com. It's WSSLeverage18.com to find out all about that event. We would love to see you there. It's going to be in Sarasota, Florida. It's going to be awesome. If you send a text message to Boomtown NOV to 44222, it'll ask you who you are, you give them your information, and then you'll be able to, we'll send you the download. So we'll send you everything you want to your email. And so I'm going to leave that in there. I'm going to give you I'm looking to see if anybody has any questions for me. I see lots of great comments. Thank you for the love. Thank you for your energy on this call today. This has been a really good call. I don't get to do a lot of webinars where I just get to teach. You know, there's usually an agenda. I didn't have an agenda on this webinar day other than to share with you what really works and how we really do things. And I hope that you appreciate Boomtown investing in your success. When they hire somebody like me to come in and just teach, and they say to me, it's not going to be a Boomtown sales pitch, it's not going to be a sales pitch for you, I want you to come in and really teach something, you know that you have a partner that is truly interested in your success. So make sure you let Boomtown know that you appreciate them putting this kind of an event on, and we'll do everything we can to continue to provide great value in this relationship. Okay, let me give you my closing slide. My last slide, how I want to wrap it up today, is I'm going to show you a picture of my boy. This is my boy Jake, and I took Jake. It was really interesting. You've heard the quote that if you teach a man to fish, he'll eat for if you give a man a fish, he'll eat for a day. If you teach a man to fish, he'll eat for a lifetime. But it's not just teaching him how to fish. That's not really the secret. Let me just tell you that I took Nate, who's now runs my sales team. You'll get to talk to Nate if you do a business consult. Nate is awesome, and Nate's 26 years old. And when he got his Eagle Scout, I flew him to Alaska. And when I went up to Alaska with Nate, we spoke at a conference for one day, and then we went fishing for about 8 days. So it was a really fun event. And the first day we went fishing, we went on the Russian River. Now, I don't know if you've ever heard of this, but the Russian River is like, they call it combat fishing, because you stand shoulder to shoulder with people, and you can see all these salmon that are all turning red, heading up to spawn, and you're not allowed to hook them in the body. You have to do what's called the Kenai flip, and that's where you flip your fishing line out, you follow it along, and then you pull it quickly, and you hopefully catch them in the mouth. And if you catch them in the mouth, all of a sudden you have to yell, fish on. And then the people that you're standing shoulder to shoulder with, and there's hundreds of them on either side of the river, get out of your way while you land your fish. Well, I'm fishing with a 13-year-old boy, and fishing lines are getting tangled, and there's all these fish in there, but it's combat fishing, and I hated it. So the very next day, I talked to Brenda, and Brenda was the title rep for my, I think it was a Remax broker up there that had hooked me up with Brenda. And I told her about our experience, and she says, oh, you need a guide. I says, well, what do you mean? She says, well, I got a guy who's one of my escrow officers. It's also a fishing guide, and he has these private places. It'll cost you a little bit of money, but it's probably worth it. And so I engaged the guide, and the guide met us early in the morning, and he put us in the back of his four-wheel drive, and we went, and he had to go up to a gate and unlock the gate and take us into a private property. And as we went back in this private property, we went to a place on the river that had all the same fish, and they're all there, and there's nobody else fishing but us. We caught so many fish, my son was tired. We were throwing them back. We were putting them in freezers. What I learned was it's not just teaching them how to fish, but it's teaching them where to fish. And it's okay to spend a little bit of money to have a guide that will teach you how to fish upstream. Sometimes I feel like we're all going after the same clients, and we're working way too hard for the money that we're making. And maybe it's time for you to get a coach, get a mentor, find someone that resonates with you and your core values, and get some help so that you can learn how to fish upstream, and you can have the phone call that Nate had with his mom as we were headed back to the hotel. He said, Mom, it was awesome. I slept all the way out. I outfished everyone, and then I slept on the way back. This was the best day of my life. And that's my boy. Not because he learned how to fish, but because he learned how to fish upstream. I appreciate you being here today. Thank you for all your comments. Christine, I don't know if you have anything else you want to say. This will absolutely be a recorded webinar that you'll have access to. Let me bring this slide up. If you have a signature line in your text, you have to remove your signature line in your text if you're not getting the information from the text download. And so just go to workmansuccess.com/BoomtownNOV and you'll get the same thing. If you're trying to send a text and there's a signature line and it gets caught up, that's the reason it's not working. So just go to the other one. I love you guys. Have a great week. I'll talk to you soon, and let's have an amazing 2018 together. Thanks for having me, Christine.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone, for attending.